Yes, guys, we are back. Manchester United versus Liverpool. Big weekend, massive weekend. Bit of an anticlimax, if I'm being honest. We'll get into that later. But I'm joined by Stay and Joel. Listen, guys, what are we saying?
Listen, man, it wasn't what we expected, was it, Steve? Do you know what I mean? I thought it was supposed to be the big game, but it was a bit of a stalemate draw from a neutral's perspective. Still a lot to talk about, but I think, everyone spared their blushes. It didn't look like anyone really wanted to go for it.
Before we get started, can I just highlight the fact that I am now set up like a true Hollywood A-lister right now. I've got the mic.
Yeah.
Visuals. I'm in HD now. I'm not in like blurred vision like I was before. It's unbelievable. I'm feeling unbelievable, man.
Hey, listen, you kept to your promise, man.
I told you I'd get set up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was a bit of a case of two teams didn't want to lose. Although I do think maybe a bit too late. Like last 15 minutes, United did seem to try and turn the screw a little bit. But you got to remember, I'm seeing so many people saying this is a depleted Liverpool side. They're missing two centre-halves. They've replaced one of them with Fabinho, who's just a top footballer. I think he could play any position and look all right doing it. And I think he looks natural centre-half. Henderson, I'll give you. I'm not really sure he's a good centre-half, and I don't think United exploited that in the slightest. But you got to remember, this is a team that's not lost in nearly 4 years at home. I think the fact that people are complaining United didn't go and beat them shows you the progress United have made.
Listen, Fergie would have took a draw. You'd have took a point in the circumstances that we're in now. 100%, and no one would have argued. It's just because it's Ollie, people want to start picking little details and stuff. Oh, we should have done this. I thought he should have played Eric Bailly, but he got a draw in the end. What you can't argue, kept a clean sheet. So whatever you say, you have to give him credit. And I think at the moment, I'm sitting there looking at Man United and say, I was screaming out ages ago, over the last 7 years, all I've ever said is, please, let me see some sort of progress. Because under each regime since Fergie, I've not really seen, there's been a bit of progress for a little while, then it slips away. At the moment, I'm seeing a consistent run of progress. It's not where we're 10 points clear. Listen, we're sitting on top of the league. We were 30 points behind Liverpool when they beat us last season at this stage. And we're now 3 points above top of the league. You've got to be able to sit there and go, actually take stock and go, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, whether you like him or you don't, whether you backed him or you didn't at the beginning, the guy seems to be on the right track. Let's get behind him. Simple as that.
I want to challenge you a little bit, as I said I would. Fair play. There is some sort of improvement. But have you improved to the point where you're as equal as Liverpool? Is the table lying to us at the moment? Be real.
We're not equal to Liverpool. I didn't say that. Where did you hear that? I didn't say that.
I'm asking because
but what I'm saying is, the point I'm making is last season, we got beat by Liverpool. We were 30 points behind. To make up 30 points and then go 3 points ahead of them, the way we have, and be top of the league at this stage, that is ridiculous. There's no other way you can put it. That's an unbelievable change in mentality, in spirit, in character at the club. And obviously, there's a plan of action that's going on behind the scenes. You look at even the signings that they're making, all these young players that they're bringing in, there's a difference. Ollie must have said to someone in that building, I want him to invest in younger players. The whole different strategy in terms of investment, in terms of recruitment started to change. Yes, they've gone and got Cavani, but that's experience, and that's valuable experience for the young players that he's then bringing in and then trying to blood into the team. I feel there's a method here that's going on, and we can't sit here and jump about it and scream about it too loudly, but I'm tipping my hat at the moment to Ollie and the job him and his staff are doing.
Which you can, but I'm saying, is it not mostly because it's a Corona year and it's a little bit different at the moment, you know? That
it doesn't matter. It's a Corona year for everybody. So, like, everyone's under the same umbrella. We're all sitting here and having to deal with these issues. We're dealing with it as well as anybody, if not better than most. So, listen, I'm not sitting here saying Man United are the favourites to win the league, etc. I'm just saying. I'm saying I asked for improvement and I asked to see something what I could believe in. I hadn't believed in Man United for the last 7 years. I do now.
Fair enough. Steve?
And Joel, United had the shortest rest period in between this season and last season because of that. In fact, we was in Europa so late, and we've had one of the shortest pre-seasons, which is why we had some of the results that we had at the start of the season. So if it's going to affect anyone, it's going to affect all the clubs that was involved in Europe. Now, I said Europe, I know that's a dirty word around Arsenal fans, but you know.
We're all in it together, mate. We're all in it together. Don't get ahead of yourselves. We're all in the same batch at the moment.
Rio, last year, I think you went off on one a little bit, and you were saying about how some of the 6 players that we'd had were bad business. And I think that ties into what you were just saying about what we've done on some of the younger players. Sanchez, Falcao, Depay, Darmian, Rojo, Fellaini. You think there's been a change in focus on transfers?
A complete change. You look at the players that have come in, they're all got one thing in common. They're young and they're hungry with something to prove. It's a very big difference to the players that were coming in years gone by now. And there were so many players that were coming in and you were sitting there going, are they really Man United players? Do they fit the DNA? Do they fit what Man United's been about that got us to these lofty heights and they're going to then keep us there or claw our way back up there? I didn't believe it. And we were buying players for too much money who were either over the hill or were the wrong people at the wrong time. Simple as that. And it was proven. Those players have gone now. And as I said to you, that the recruitment seems to be changing in the direction, definitely in one area, which is definitely for youth. And if you look at a lot of the signings, listen, Fergie wasn't perfect. He made some ricks in his time with signings. But if you look at a lot of these big signings who you can go back over the years and say, who did he, for instance, a young myself, spent big but bought potential. Rooney, bought young, spent big but potential. The same with Cristiano. He done it with Anderson, who went on to win leagues and Champions League. Nani, the same. Listen, he got it wrong here and there with others, but it shows you that if you continue down that route of or that train of thought, buying young, hungry, potentially big players, you've got as good a chance as anyone. And Ollie seems to have, him and the people behind the scenes there seem to have changed in terms of the recruitment process.
Yeah, he tried to buy a Van Nistelrooy a year earlier as well. It was only because of the injury that it didn't go through. So yeah, and I definitely see what you're talking about there. Steve? What you're smug these days, isn't it? I see your vid with Rio on your channel yesterday. You guys were, you know what I mean, confident. It was good to see. It's good to see.
But league, Joel, you'd know that if you was there. But
before we bring in a couple guests, I just wanted to hear your thoughts because you've been a bit quiet.
On what?
In regards to the game yesterday.
On yesterday's game, yeah. I thought. I think it was a weird circumstance because I think you can get up for the crowd, and I think in these games, the energy of the performance can probably be put down a little bit to the crowd, and obviously that wasn't an option in these big games. First time we played Liverpool under lockdown circumstances, so it would have been nice to have had a crowd there, and I think it might have affected the tempo of the game a little bit because it was a bit of a flat game. But it was just, it's about the points at the end of the day, isn't it? I think it probably was a bit of a case of two teams that didn't really want to lose it. Very much like the City game at Old Trafford. You know, both teams couldn't really afford to lose it, and actually a draw is not necessarily the worst result in the world if you get it. I'm a little bit disappointed, which I think shows the progress that we've made because, you know, we was how far off this time last year? 30 points. You know, and to be disappointed that we didn't beat the current champions in their own park when they've not lost there for 60-odd games. I think that shows that the progress is there, but I think there's gears for this United team to go through. I think there's improvements to be made right the way through, from the defenders to the midfielders to the attackers, I think in personnel and within the players that played. And I think there's more to come from this United side, but I don't think we're going to win the league anyway this year. I think City's the team to beat, to be honest, this year. I think they're going to proper sneak up on everyone, and by the end of the season, everyone will be like, well, we always thought City was going to win the league. But yeah, I'm happy with a point, to be honest. It's a bit disappointing we didn't get 3 because I thought we could have took advantage of them. But, you know, I'm taking a point, mate.
Fair enough. I know we've got in a couple guests as well that we wanted to bring in. I don't know if we're ready or if someone can help us on that side. We've got here Culture Cams, big Man United fan. Rio, I know you're a fan of him. You see him talking. And, of course, you've also got Paul from the Redmen TV, biggest Liverpool.
Hey, we got another guy just turned up as well. We're waiting to bring him in, though.
Yeah. So yeah, literally, guys, you know, let's start off with Cam. I caught some of your podcast this morning and I went and I did my own stats. I noticed that the Liverpool front three, their record versus Man United: Salah 6 games, 1 goal, no assists. Mane 7 games, 1 goal, no assists. Firmino, 11 games, 0 goals, 1 assist. What's going on over there, man?
You know what? For me, I think it's like United set themselves up. Like we set ourselves up very defensive in games like against Liverpool. We part. Not, I wouldn't say part the bus, but we're quite defensive, low block. And when you come up against a team like that, I think what I said is that I think when you have players like Salah and Mane, what they need is space. They need space in behind, or they get a lot of ricochets and bobbles and little things like that in the box. But when you set yourself up in a low block, just heading everything away and letting them play in front of you, I don't think they're as effective. And I think that shows with their stats against Man United. And I mentioned it, when you used to play against players like Eden Hazard and Aguero's and them type of players, they can make something happen out of nothing. And I look at Mane, Salah, and Firmino, and I don't really see them as players that can just put that little bit of magic. I think they score goals.
Pardon? You don't think...
I think they score goals. I think they score goals, a lot of goals, but I don't think they got that magic like Eden Hazard, like Neymar.
I put Mane in that category all day.
No, I don't see it. Honestly, I don't see it.
I'm not really asked about, but Mane, I can't take that on Mane. Mane's
Firmino can sit down, Paul. Sorry, Firmino can sit down as far as I'm concerned, but Mane and Salah doesn't even need to play well, and you're going to get something.
No, you know what I think? Let me just try and clear what he's trying to say up. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think what he's trying to say is that Salah and Mane are no doubt great players and score goals, but are they going to get the ball on the halfway line or just on the edge of their box and take on 4 players and score a goal, or are they going to get the ball on one of the sides of the wing or in the middle of the pitch, turn, take on 3 players, and bang one in? They don't really do that.
Exactly.
You can say they can, but do they? I don't recall many times that they do that. They're on the end of things. They kind of get on the end of things a lot of the time, or Mane or Salah will shift it and bang. But I don't see them as being them them artists type players who are going to draw 2-3 man to them and then do some sort of magic like that. So I get what he's saying. As devastating as they are, they ain't them guys.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, with that front three, they should be doing better against Man United. Paul.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. This is us, Mr. Liverpool in the house at the moment.
Yeah, I know he was going to die.
Is Klopp rattled or what? Is he rattled?
Hang on. I got a question here, Paul. Paul, I got a serious question. Go on. You haven't scored in 3 games. Is Klopp the man to take you forward?
Oh, mate, you've been waiting for that one, haven't you? Absolutely. I was saying it's mad. It's mad. Football's been amazing for like 3 years, and it's been really rubbish for the last month, and I can't quite figure out why that is. I think all footy's just gone downhill. I can't quite work out why. I've become very accustomed to us being very good at having spent most of my life with that not being the case, unfortunately. No, look, I don't know. Where do you want me to start? I agree with the kind of the notion what we're saying about the forward lads. What Liverpool don't have at the minute is like a guy who gets one chance and sticks it in the back of the net. That's what we don't have. You think about those games
for a bit.
Well, no, but think about the guys who tend to, a lot of the time in these games, it's random fellas who win the games. You think back to Danny Murphy doing it a couple of times in the early noughties, Xherdan Shaqiri a couple of times last season. These are not like exactly matter, you know what I mean? Like, they're not necessarily your main men who are the guys who win the games. It's often they're the ones who've got a game plan against them, and you need that. It's your 4th or 5th guy who's the guy who crops up with something. It's not like the days, and I'm sure Rio will remember, of course, when you had like Fernando Torres, who was just a brutal killer in front of goal, and he could go and take a game away from you with a couple of chances. And on to the Klopp thing, I don't know. I think we all recognise that managers at the top end, they become over scrutinised at times, particularly when things aren't going the way. And again, you all recognise this from Alex Ferguson a lot. Fergie would come out with a lot of stuff that rivals would be like, what is he talking about? But actually, in some respects, it's kind of putting your bollocks on the table a little bit and throwing your weight around. And I think Klopp kind of, he's not a passive manager, and when things are going well, everyone kind of goes, oh yeah, well, he's just kind of flexing his muscles. And when things aren't going well, it's very easy to go, oh well, look at him, he looks rattled. I don't get that. I don't get it, that he looks flapped in any way, shape or form. He's a pragmatist. He tends to work with what he's got, to be honest. But look, decent game yesterday, wasn't it? I thought both teams if either team had come away with a win, both teams would have come away and said, well, our game plan went perfectly to plan there. But as it was, I think it was quite evenly matched.
Do you think you can win the league with the centre-backs that you've got now? Or without the two main centre-backs? Do you think you can win the league?
I think we need that midfield. We need to prove that we can work without Jordan Henderson and Fabinho in midfield, and we haven't. That's too early doors for that. I think if Thiago, Wijnaldum, and one other click, which that's an ask, but it's not a ridiculous ask.
It's a very different midfield, then, isn't it? Very different.
100%, and that's our biggest issue. The midfield is central to our Liverpool play, and it's not so much the centre half thing; it's the midfield thing. Because I mean, I don't know what your guys' take was, but I thought Fabinho and Henderson were pretty good, largely, at the back, more so than I expected. I think Henderson being the left-sided centre half, where he played the right side against Southampton, was actually quite an interesting move because it made him more of like the culture one and let Fabinho do a bit of the dirty work, which I think suits them. But no, I agree. That's the big question for me. I think we've still got a brilliant goalie. I think Fabinho's class. I think if Matip, even if you only get Matip in, one out, that'll help us. But it's whether the midfield can click, because the midfield has been the basis of our success now for 2 or 3 seasons. And we've effectively had to blood out an entirely new midfield in the middle of the season. So we'll put like Thiago, you wouldn't bet against him doing the business. It's whether we can be quite at that level at the minute. Yeah, understandably not sure.
Last question here for Cam. I wanted to ask Bruno Fernandes. Now, we're not here to put him down. We know he's class, but can you talk to me what's going on when he's playing against these top teams? Like, people are trying to put him up there. But what's going on?
Why, do you not think he's the man, Joe? Sorry, Cam, hold on. Do you not think he's the man then? The way you're asking questions, like, you're doubting what he's about.
When did I say that? I'm just saying, I think he's up there. Joke aside. But I have noticed in a few top games, you know what I mean, he hasn't turned up as much as I thought he would. And these are the games that stamp you as the main man. Cam?
Do you know what? I think it's a tough one because his performances also are not like great at the moment in them type of games. And I think when you're playing against the bigger teams or like the higher quality opposition, of course, it's going to be about fine margins. And Bruno has been that player for United so far in the smaller games, because there's been high leverage games like Everton and Leicester's that he's performed in. But these type of games, when there's maybe a little bit more attention on him, you have to be a little bit more, how can I say, a bit more safe with the ball. I think he kind of struggles with that a little bit. I think when he gets on the ball, he wants to make the killer pass, because United set up in these games to be the counter-attacking team. So we don't set up to like boss the game and pass it side to side and see how it goes. We set up to get the ball to Bruno and he gets it as fast as he can possibly to Rashford or Martial, whoever. And I just don't think that's suiting. I don't think that's suiting him at the moment. When you look at him in the games, he looks lost. He looks a bit frustrated. And then also on the other side of things, there's always usually a defensive midfielder. That could be Fernandinho, Rodri, whoever it is, Thiago, that's pulling the strings. And we need him to be doing the defensive job on them. And I just don't think he really wants to do that defensive duty. Thiago was running the show yesterday, was barely opposed by Bruno. Same thing with Fernandinho in these kind of games. I just think with him, it's kind of just like, I don't think he's a great number 8 for Man United. I don't think he will be a great number 8, but the 10 role, it suits him at United. But I just think in these games, we're not set up for a 10 to really have a massive impact. And I think that's where he's lacking a little bit. If you look at him yesterday, like every time he got the ball, he moved the ball so quickly. It must have.
You say that, yeah, you say that. But yesterday, he could have won the game. He had one chance. If he slots that chance away, Joe's not asking that question.
It's very true.
Full margin.
Do you know what, Joel? Well, Cam nailed it before. He was saying Liverpool's front three against United has been largely ineffective. It's the same thing, but no one wants to talk about it. You've got to think that a better team is better equipped to deal with the bigger threats that the opposition are going to deal with. But what you hope is that if someone is dealing with Bruno and they've looked at United and they've gone, Bruno's the main threat, he's the main creator, you stop Bruno, you stop United. What you've got to hope is someone like Pogba can step up, or Rashford can step up, or Martial can step up. And if they've not got the double marking that maybe Bruno's getting, one of them can get 1v1 and maybe get something ahead of them. It's just
everyone wants to stop him, but not many teams are good enough,
aren't they?
Paul?
Yeah. Everyone wants to stop him, but not many teams are good enough to stop a player of that quality. That's the thing. That's adding to Howson's point there. Is that, and what's wrong with being a flat sack bully? There's nothing wrong with being unstoppable against 15 of the teams in the league. If you can do that, you're probably playing for a team that's going to be in title contention. That's what it is. Goes back to the Salah Mane stuff. It's all well and good. Gutted that they don't score loads of goals against Man United, but would you ask me, would I rather them have 7 goals in 7 games or Liverpool have won the league last season? You know what I mean? And that's where United are at with that. Liverpool played them well, but then what does it? You're right. What Steve saying is right there. The players have got to pick up the slack. And I don't know how you thought about Pogba, but I thought Pogba was quite good. Not like what I expected from him, but he's so talented and he was such a useful outlet. You could just stick the ball to him and he'd hold it up and he'd bring people in.
That's what I think about Pogba. Like, people worry about where you play him sometimes, which is true. To get the best out of him, I think you've got to try and stick him into that little inside left position that he played so well at Juve. But obviously, Man United don't play with a one holding player and then 2 midfielders to allow that. So it's very difficult. But what you do get from him is moments. Like, you get moments in games, and that's been the thing that hasn't been consistent with him over the last couple of years, is that them moments haven't come around frequent enough. Whereas a lot lately, and we want to see this continue, he's having moments in games where he's almost been able to define games. And even yesterday, he had another chance. If he bangs that goal in again yesterday, he's a superhero. A couple of almost nearlies with passes as well, but he's on the edge of the game at the moment, and that's where I like to see Paul, and in that creative space where he's able to be imaginative, being able to influence the game at the right end of the pitch, and people not having to worry about, defensively he can't do this. Well, his game's never really been about being amazing defender. His game's been about affecting games in terms of dictating the pace of the game or creating chances and scoring goals. That's it.
That's brilliant. Hey, listen, we wanted to say thank you very much to Cam and Paul. Looks like they've just been cut off abruptly. Sorry for that. These guys are doing a great job, Cam, on Stoppage TV, 360 TV Media. Good stuff.
Check it out. It's sick.
Sick stuff. Paul from Redmen TV. I don't know where they've just disappeared to, but guys, we definitely want to have you back on. Massive apologies for that. I was enjoying it. But Rio, it's all well and good to have, opinions from us, but we've got another friend coming in, in regards to the game yesterday. You might know him, former Liverpool player, former England player. He won the UEFA Cup, the FA Cup, and the League Cup with Liverpool, and the UEFA Cup with Liverpool. It's none other than Mr. Emile Heskey. Can we have him in?
Yes, what's happening?
I'm good. How are you doing, guys? You okay?
Yeah,
man. Good to see you, man. Long time, man.
I know. Grey hair.
I know. I feel the same, man. What's going on? You need to get that Just for Men going on.
At times, you just got to accept it, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm going down fighting, man.
But all good, all
You
good.
two must have played together quite a few times then for England, I'm sure.
Yeah,
man.
Well,
We
with,
played with the, go on.
18s, no?
Yeah, 18s we played together from the 18s all the way through to the first team.
Wow.
Emile, when he was young, I remember playing with Emile in the under 18s. Was it the under 18s tournament, the Euros or something?
Yeah.
And he used to beast people, man. He used to terrorize people left, right. I used to go back to my estate and speak to my mates and say, boy, this guy, Emile Heskey, listen, he's an animal. He used to run with people on his back. Not a problem. Remember against Italy when them guys tried to say something to you and you had about 3 of them up like that?
Me and Michael.
Man. Emile Heskey and Michael Owen for the 18s. Wow. Unplayable. Unplayable. That's why Michael says he's his best partner, because he's been from that age even they just clicked.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him play for England when he was at Leicester. Man was just moving like a bully, just no one could get near him. I used to think, how old is this guy for real? What's the real age? What's the real
I was
age?
born in Leicester, by the way. You can't.
I remember when you played against Argentina when you came. I don't know if you started or you came on at Wembley.
I started.
And remember the guy Sensini, the defender. I saw him one time. You manhandled him near the bench because I was watching. I was subbed then, and you ran away from him. You grabbed him up, ruffled him up, and ran away with the ball. Yeah, and when someone looks at the bench, as if to say to the manager, like, "You got to bring me off."
Yeah,
it was too much for me.
He was
The
old then
people
as
in
well.
Europe
You can see him aging on. You can see him aging on the pitch as well.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I saw you do stuff like that, man. And I always used to feel that like you was a great outlet. Like you get some players you play with are good players, and when they get the ball, they're great, or they do. But you made other people, I think, better. Like for instance, I could play a ball a bit aimless up top. I'll just hit an area. You'd make it a good ball. And so when people say players make other players better, that's where you came in. I think you was very unselfish, done some other people's work as well. Michael Owen, as I said, he loves playing with you. When I speak to him and I hear him speaking about his different strike partners, and he's played with some tremendous players, but he said he enjoyed playing with you more than anybody because you had that selflessness about your game. You might not have sometimes been up there in terms of the goal scoring charts, but what you done for a team and for individual players around you, you have to respect that.
Again, I think when you're looking at, because I'm coaching now as well, so when you're looking at that, it's not everyone's going to be the Messis. So you have to build a atmosphere and an environment that everyone can thrive in. And if that's your role, play your role. And I knew my role. I knew that if I was up there and I was going to, one thing as well as for defenders, if you're going to play a ball up to someone and it keeps coming back, you're going to be hammering me. So I made sure that if you're playing a ball into me, 9 times out of 10, I'm holding that ball up. I'm either getting a foul or I'm bringing someone else in. And that was what I built a lot of my game around. And obviously, when you're younger and you got a little bit more legs, you can run the channels as well. And I was quick. I was strong.
Yeah. So you obviously played at Liverpool, had a good time there, yeah? How are you now with the Liverpool situation and where they are and their current circumstances?
We say current circumstances. We're talking 4 games. Is that what we're going off now? We're talking
what
3
happens
to 4
when you're the top
games.
team?
I know.
When you're the top
right.
team, you get picked up.
It's true. It's true because again, you'd have been there. We've all been there where you're riding a high. You have 2 or 3 uneven results, and then suddenly you're in a crisis. And to be fair, 3 games without a goal is for a Liverpool side of how free flowing they were. There is a bit of a crisis, you know. They've got to come out of that stronger, and they'll have to try that in training and start working harder in training and figuring out how they actually start breaking teams down. Because again, teams are going to sit in front of them with their blocks and not give them any space. And then I was listening to you before. You've got to have them creative players that out of nothing can create something, and you'll be like, wow, where did that come from?
I'd be
and
really
at this moment in
interested.
time, we haven't got that.
I'd be really interested to just be able to gauge the mentality and the mental side of things with the Liverpool squad and the management at the moment, because we speak about Man United. I think they're happy to get on the motorway, get back to Manchester with a 0-0, happy to take the point. Fulham, let's move on. Whereas it's still a draw for Liverpool, but are they have the same thought process now? Are they happy with the draw and not scoring again is another problem for them? Or is it more negative energy coming off of the back of that result for them than positive?
I would have said there's been more negative than positive, to be honest with you. I can't really say this because you're the one who's won back-to-back. I've never won back-to-back in the sense of winning the league. And the mentality you need to, and the drive you need to actually keep going again and again. And having played a not so great game, but still getting the result, but then having to go and perform again and coming up against Liverpool and then coming up against City and Tottenham, and still having that drive to really go out there and get the results. They have never done it back to back. So is this a different pressure that they're coming up against? They've never been in this position before.
This is what I talk about when people talk about, this Liverpool side's one of the greatest teams, or the City sides of the last few years is one of the best sides we've seen, etc. You've got to win back-to-backs at least to be in that conversation, I think. These one-away seasons ain't the one. Like when Joel talks about the Invincibles, it's fine, that's great, but they didn't repeat. Like if you're a repeater pan, then you've got a chance to be in them conversations. If you're not, then because it comes down to, one season, it's great. As a one-season team, they're great. But in terms of being a team that dominated over a course of time, 2, 3, 4 years, that then separates, I think, the good sides from the great sides.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Even though I didn't like the dig there, and you almost drew me out naturally. You see, I was coming to defend my team, but yeah, you're right. But I think my defense with that era, though, Rio, is that Man United was still the best team. Do you know what I mean? Even in that period where Arsenal, that year we were clearly the best, but during that period there was a back and forth. It was a tussle. I don't think it makes Arsenal any less of a great team because they didn't go back to back. The fact that we didn't win Europe was probably a bigger thing, I should say. But yeah, you're right. I think in this kind of era, the back-to-back stuff is really, really important. And in order for us to be talking about Liverpool being that team, they're definitely going to have to do a little bit more than they've done. But you can't take away their 2018/19 season.
You know what? You know how draining it is, like for a player to go through that, like to win. You win the first season, it's almost like relief. Emily, you know what it's like when you win, you get your hands on a trophy. It's more relief than anything. You just think, oh my God, I've done it. Right. You can put away all that question marks, etc. But then to recharge and then go again is the big test. Is the one, because then obviously you're not only having to reboot yourself again, but you're now the target because you're the best team in the land now, and now you've got a target on your back every game. You're not getting no passes or gimmies. It's completely, you have to perform every week because otherwise there's someone trying to take that trophy off you, and it's very difficult. And as I say, draining mentally and physically is so difficult. And these Liverpool players right now, the City players of the last few years, they're starting to understand that you need a bit of luck as well with injuries, and you need to be able to have a robust enough squad to deal with that. But it's difficult, man. It's really difficult.
I've got a question for you, Emile. Sorry, Emile, real quick. He's talking about pressure and how difficult it is to deal with. Did you feel that pressure when you were playing for England? When, you know, you're doing your stuff, you're doing your job, but there's constant pressure. How did you cope with it? Talk to us about that a little bit.
The pressure, the funny thing is the pressure that is something that drives you as well. You always feel pressure going onto a football pitch because everyone's watching you. But this is your niche. This is what you know. This is everything. Everything I know about football was from when I was younger, and that's where I want to go and entertain. So I knew what I was capable of doing. I just didn't want the nerve to take over where you actually it stunts everything that you want to do on the pitch. We played a game recently, and the first thing I said to the one of the right backs against the winger, I said, make sure she has a bad touch on their first touch, get in her head, because it slowly starts to take away a lot of your power. If you don't have a good touch, we'll tell you, if you don't have a good touch in your first couple of touches, you don't want that ball again.
Yeah, it's true.
But going onto the pitch, if you're big enough, you block all that out and you just focus on yourself and your game. And I was lucky enough, especially when I was younger, to be able to do that and not really make things the external things worry me too much. Because I was under a lot of pressure. Half of the time when I was playing for England, no one wanted me there. I'm not talking about players. I was talking about more media side of things. So imagine the pressure of that going on. But it didn't bother me because I was picked for a reason and I was good enough. So I didn't really let all that external stuff get in the way.
Talking of pressure, like it couldn't amount to the pressure that you left on my knee before the World Cup that time, remember?
Oh, yeah. No, but you say that, right? Right. So that Rio told a story. It was just a training ground accident. But then suddenly everything's on me because he our captain, our talisman, can't play the whole World Cup. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Yeah, and I got, to be fair, I stayed away from media, but it was all about me. Oh, Rio's not here because of me. Yeah. So the pressure that mounts on top of me because of that as well, and it could have happened to anyone, couldn't it?
It was innocuous. It wasn't even a tackle.
No, it wasn't.
The ball came into you, and I tried to nick it between your legs or something, and we fell back. That was it. My knee was gone. I knew immediately when I hit the ground, man. That's it. World Cup over. And I was thinking,
it was 14 stones though.
I couldn't believe it, man. But I remember I come back to the hotel and I think I could see that it was paining you, man. It was like that you was like, I don't know, you felt a bit of responsibility for it. Obviously, it was none of yours at all. But I think we spoke on that around that time. Emile, just know it was nothing to do. It weren't your fault. It was just one of them things. But that's the thing with football. You get these situations, you just have to deal with it, man.
Yeah. I
got a question for you. 2001, Obviously, you both played in that game against Germany, 5-1. One of England's greatest triumphs, I guess, apart from actually winning a World Cup in '66. From there, obviously, go to the 2002 World Cup, lose to Brazil. It was a very close game. Did you feel like that team, obviously the pair of you, because you both play, I think you might have both played every game in this. Did you feel like that was a team capable of winning the World Cup? What was your thoughts on the performance and what maybe could have been with that team?
For myself, that was obviously the closest I ever got to winning something, especially in one of the major tournaments. I wasn't ready to come home. I thought we were there. We were more. When you feel like you've got one hand on it when Michael goes and scores. And we were very. One thing I loved. I don't know about you, but I loved Sven in the sense that when you go on a pitch with Sven, you know everything. He's got these little boards that he's got all these different bits that he's moving around, and so we knew what they were going to do. But again, he got 3 Ballon d'Ors up front. Go and stop them. It was tough. It was. They were the best. They were the best in the world at the time, and it wasn't to be. But yeah, that was the closest I ever came. I thought.
I've never seen a team go down to 10 men and be so comfortable.
Yeah,
like it was unbelievable the way that how they didn't panic, and that was one of the more scariest things that I felt in that game. Is that normally when a team go down to 10 men, they all just either fall back and just defend the edge of their box, or you see emotion and people falling apart. This team done neither. They came on the front foot and said, give us the ball, we'll keep the ball and just run the game down. And if we score another one, we'll take that as well. And like Emile said, they had 3 Ballon d'Or guys up front who were amazing players, Ronaldo, Rivaldo and Ronaldinho. But with Sven, I just thought that we were too rigid. That was our only problem. We knew our jobs, etc. But I thought against most teams, we'd get overrun in midfield all the time because we didn't have enough bodies in there, and especially against the better teams. And even going down to 10 men again, we couldn't deal with the bodies in the middle of the pitch. And when that happened, I thought we had a good chance, but after that game, I didn't feel we deserved to kind of go anywhere beyond where we was because they were that much better than us.
We 4-4-2, didn't we, in that game against Brazil?
Yeah.
Was it you and Michael up front?
Yeah. And by the way, they had Kaká on the bench as well, so a 4th Ballon d'Or.
Man, talking about, I find it interesting that you spoke about the midfield, Rio. We've spoken about this before in regards to not fitting in Gerrard, Scholes, and Lamps. Emile, what's your thoughts about that when you see the talent you had, but the inability to, because Brazil, they look like they were just shoehorning everyone in there. Do you know what I mean? Like they were playing everyone. It's just like, why couldn't England do that?
I think it feeds into what Rio just said there. It's about having a flexibility on formations and how you're going to play. We were just so rigid with 4-4-2, and then once we actually what we did when we lost the ball, I dropped in as I say, was it 4-4-1-1? But it just didn't work. As in, when you want to fit your real talisman in the midfield, having one sitting and them 2 running around and creating havoc and giving them the license. Because when you look at when Stevie and Frank had the real great seasons, it was when someone was sitting behind them and they had the license to go forward and not really worry. SCM was one for Lamps. SCM was just sitting there and he would be the one just doing the shadowing, and Lamps would be going, getting his goals, creating stuff. Stevie was a bit the same, but Stevie played a number 10 role behind Fernando Torres. And he was given the license to actually go and explore and go and do what he wanted to do. But we were so rigid in the way that we wanted to play, in the sense that it was a 4-4-2 and we're not going to move out of that. And it didn't allow the fluency of getting them into the positions where we knew they were going to create some havoc.
Okay. Now sorry, go on, Steve.
I was trying to think of the formation Brazil played, because I know Cafu and Roberto Carlos played. I think they played a back 3, but they also played a forward 3. Did they play 3-4-3? Yeah,
they're Gilberto Silva in midfield with, who was the other one? Emerson got injured in the
didn't he do?
Ed Milton?
Wasn't he?
Yeah, the goalkeeper trying to be a goalkeeper. Did Clemerson play?
He might have played actually. Who might have played?
This lineup.
We have to find the lineup.
Hold on. Brazil lineup. They had obviously goalkeeper Cafu, Carlos, Ronaldinho, Edmilson, Rivaldo,
Edmilson, bad player.
Roca Jr., Kleberson obviously played Lucio, and Gilberto Silva. Yeah,
Kleberson.
Yeah, Rocky Jr. Yeah, Gilberto Silva in midfield, Kleberson. Yeah,
it's not easy. Now, obviously, we're talking. We've gone on to this whole England kind of topic. I want to move it on to the top boy for England. Do you know what I mean? And by top boy, it's not disrespecting anybody else, but Mr. Wayne Rooney. Obviously, he stopped playing. He's officially retired. Rio said earlier on that he reckons the respect levels for him will go higher now that he stopped playing. Is that what you reckon?
Well, if you're looking at what he's actually achieved, and people will start looking back and they'll just realise how good he was. I think now it's funny. You only really get the recognition when you finish playing and when you finish something, when you're looking at boxers and when you're looking at footballers and they retire and you start looking back at what they actually did and what they actually achieved. And got to remember, he started at 16, bursting onto the scene. Was it the goal against Seaman? So these are the things that people don't actually remember. And then they start looking back and say, wow, he couldn't have achieved that. Oh, he's top goal scorer.
I remember that game vividly. I remember everything.
Just a brute running through and how quick he was and his ability to not just hold the ball up, to run with the ball, to create chances, to dribble. He wasn't just a one-trick pony. He did everything. And I think this is when people start to look back and like you're saying, start to really respect what he actually achieved and what he did.
Where do you think he was in terms of the world's best? Because I think Rio's got an opinion on this, but I want to find out what you want, Emile.
We're talking obviously in his prime. In his prime, he was up there. But then when you're saying up there, and when I look at Ronaldinho and people like that in their prime, Ronaldo, R9 in his prime. R9 in his prime for me, I think is the best. That's my go-to when I look at him. R9 at that one season at Barcelona when no one can get near him. He had two people hanging on his back and he's still running through and going on goal.
Wow.
Do you know
the way I see it, is that like Rooney is like I think he's the best English player of his generation, bar none. I'd put him as the best.
Yeah.
But in terms of that world best player of his generation, I think you obviously had Cristiano and you had Messi, who I think were just out there on their own.
They were
but beneath that, I think then you had even Iniesta and Xavi probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think after that was Rooney after that on the next layer of great players. I'm not saying there's a lot between that second and third run of players, but I think there was still a difference in levels. But Rooney was he could stand firm and stand tall in that company, and he'd have the respect of the others. And I think a big thing is whenever we travelled anywhere around the world with teams, Rooney would get absolute respect, massive respect from players, from fans, everywhere we travelled, because he was just absolutely adored by everybody because of how good he was. And like you say, he was one player who could do it all. Yeah. He had the guile where he could clip a ball round someone and do a bit of magic where you think, wow, he could run past people with a little trick and go and run past 2 or 3 people. He could bully people physically. And he had that sacrificial element to himself where he could chase back, he could sacrifice parts of his game and play left wing, but be almost left back for 75 minutes for the help of the team. So he had so many different elements to his game that would probably pushes him above other players sometimes because of the amount of stuff he could do. He could play right back, easy.
Yeah,
he said that once. He could have played any position he wanted to.
Yeah, he weren't lacking confidence then, was he?
Rio, I want to ask, first training session. Obviously, you played with England beforehand, and you knew about him. But they always say when you train with someone, that's where you get to see what they do day in, day out. Talk to me about the first training session when you saw Rooney at United. What was that like?
No, at United it wasn't. It was actually the game. It was against Fenerbahce in the Champions League when he banged in a hat-trick.
Yeah.
And we were all running around during that game, looking at each other, going, "I knew he was good.
Yeah,
But I didn't know he was this good." Jesus, left foot, right
Did you not
foot.
train with him beforehand?
I trained with him at England, and I knew he was good. Yeah, but that's training. I don't judge no one in training. I've seen so many great trainers. It doesn't translate to the 90 minutes.
really. Because a lot of
Name
people
three,
say-
go.
a lot
So,
of people say-
but then when I got in that game, I'd played with him for England as well and said, "Yeah, that this guy's good, man." But he signed. I remember in the change room after us, a few of us sitting there going, "Jesus, this guy's nuts! I can't believe how good he is." Like he's just a phenomenal talent. But it was crazy because he was doing man stuff like in the Champions League on a Wednesday night, banging a hat-trick at Old Trafford, absolute god status, yeah. But he had anger management issues. He was immature sometimes in the way he saw things. He was a lunatic. Emma will know. He soon did some mad stuff. I used to pick him up, yeah. Sometimes go to his house. He's renting a house in Manchester. I walked in the house and sat down in the front room. I'm seeing holes in the doors, holes in the walls, where he just can't control himself. He's just punching the wall, and like he just throw his phone. Like he'd be having an argument with someone on the phone, get frustrated, and just throw the phone. We play computer sometimes. We'd have to bring 3 or 4 draw pads because he'd break them. He was a madman. But
So-
that's what he needed to be like on the pitch as well. He was the same. He was coiled up, like waiting to explode. But if he didn't have that and didn't play on the edge like that, he weren't the same.
The typifies, you know what typifies what you just said there? Do you remember, was it Newcastle?
Yeah, the
He's
goal.
arguing with the referee, and he's getting vexed, and then suddenly turns around and a volley comes and he just volleys it and then runs off screaming.
Mad, isn't it? That encapsulates everything about Wayne Rooney at that time.
So who could talk to him? That's my question. I want to know who, because obviously, you know what I mean? Like who, obviously I know the manager had things under control, but as his teammates, you lot seem pretty close. He's out there tweeting you before he knew how to send proper DMs about picking you up and stuff, Rio. Who could talk to him when he was losing his mind a little bit, shall we say?
I mean, I had to pull him out of a few situations when we were out and about every now and again. I remember Shazy once as well. Gary Neville would sit and talk to him quite a lot. Giggsy here and there. But Wazza was like a man. That's what I'm saying. He was like, you could talk to him all you want, yeah? And then as soon as he's out the building in his own circle, he's doing what he wants. So, but what was great about him, I think him and Colleen, is that they grew together and he found a way that suited him. And the only problem I used to have with him is I remember me and Darren Fletcher one time was talking about it, and he was saying like, I've only got like 1 yellow card in the last like 20 games or something like that. And I was like, in my head, and me and Darren Fletcher spoke about it after, like, but he ain't on the edge like I want him. I want him to be, I would rather him have 10 yellow cards because I think I get a better Wayne Rooney. So some people are better on the edge playing with that fire, that red mist a little bit. He was one of them guys. If he was, I remember a couple of times he wouldn't be as aggressive in a tackle a little bit, and I used to have arguments with him on the pitch. Wazza, smash him! What's wrong with you? Like, and he'd be worried about the yellow card because his reputation is now growing. He's getting a better image, maybe. And he used to think about a lot of stuff. But when in nuts and bolts, you come to it. And listen, the kid was just an amazing, amazing talent.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, seeing him and Michael Owen is probably, you know what I mean, the two best, you know, forward attacking talents that I've seen coming through. I know this is about Rooney, but I can't have you here, Emile, and not talk about your partnership with Owen. You know, how does that feel? Did you see him? Did you see similarities in the superstar boy that Rooney is? What
Hold on, sorry, Joel, to break in. Emile, who in their pomp, at their best, at their supreme best, is better, Rooney or Owen? World Cup, 18, 19, 20-year-old Owen, come onto the scene, superstar, overnight. Rooney, mad footballer, mad talent, goals, bangers, everything. Who's the best at them?
I grew up with Michael, so I would say Michael. The reason I say Michael is his ability at that time just to go and just be so direct and be so. You're talking about a side of Rooney where he'll go and play left back and he'll go and do this, and Michael wouldn't do that. Michael was just so channeled Michael's just so channeled on, I need to score goals and I need to win the game and I need to be the main man and it's all about me, that he went and done that. And he coming on at 16 and curling that ball against Crystal Palace, scoring the hat-trick against Newcastle. All them things is Michael, that typifies Michael. And remember, we went to that tournament. I'd heard of Michael, the under-18s tournament. I'd heard of Michael, but I hadn't really seen much about him. Then he came to that tournament, and he was 16. You were 17. I was 18 at the time, and he just took every game by storm. He was just phenomenal. But his finishing ability, just to be able to slow things down when at the right time and pick that corner off, that was Michael. But ask Michael to go and play right back or play right wing. No, he's not doing that. That's not my game.
He'd walk off the pitch.
Exactly. But he was so focused on being the best finisher, best of everything. So I would probably say Michael at the time.
Wow, big shout.
Tough one, that is a tough one. I can't lie. Rio, what are you saying?
Oh, it's hard, man. 18, 19, 20-year-old Michael Owen. I don't think England have seen anything like that.
No.
And then you go to Euros, Wayne Rooney. Remember?
Yeah.
There ain't much between them two, But the thing is, they're very different. It's hard to compare them as players because they're very different.
Very.
And I don't know, man.
Now we want an answer.
I have to say, Michael Owen is probably the only player at probably 18, 19, 20 that when I played on a pitch, there was a bit of fear. I was actually scared if there was space. If I was on the halfway line, and most of the time at that age, when I was like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, I'd play 1v1 on the halfway line on my own, comfy, not a problem, because I was fast. Emile knows I was fast, bruv, innit?
No, you're very quick. Very quick.
But listen,
go
on. But with Michael Owen, and the only other one I found that with was Nicholas Anelka. If I played on the halfway line on my own, it was like a looking around like, no. Guys, come. Someone come. Do you know what I mean? Because I need help.
You played against Michael in the FA Youth Cup, though, didn't you?
Yeah, but I played midfield. I didn't play
midfield.
back. He's someone else. We made someone man mark him. He was that good. He had to be man marked in the FA Youth Cup final because he was that good and he still scored. But
you had a couple of chances. You had a couple of chances towards the end as well.
Yeah, I should have scored, man. Why are we going there? You're ending the interview on a bad note.
No, I'm not. We're not ending it. We're talking about you at 18 dealing with Michael.
Yeah, no. But I can't. They're so different, man. It's hard to pick.
You're sitting on that fence, Rio, bro. Like
Rio, you was at the '98 World Cup, weren't you?
Yeah.
Was you on the bench for the Argentina goal?
Listen, Michael Owen before every game and during every game and after every game before that Argentina game was saying, he's got to bring me on. He's got to bring me on. I'll score. I know I'm going to score. And then before that game against Argentina, or was it Colombia? He was sitting there and he was going, I'm going to score. I can see it. And he was like Emile, he was like a student. He would sit there. I'd be on the bench here messing about, getting jokes, taking in the atmosphere. My man's sitting there just looking, and I can see him just eyeing up Ayala, eyeing up the defenders, if to say, I know where he don't want me to be. I'll destroy him. And he went on there, and it just played out like he was saying in his head. The kid had supreme confidence. He knew how good he was, and no one could handle him. It
was Romania. Sorry, not even Colombia. It was Romania.
He was too 18, 19, 20-year-old Michael Owen, I think, is hard to beat. I must say.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with Rooney banging in hat tricks against Fenerbahce, like you said,
it's hard to beat that. But Rooney over a career beats Michael.
Yeah.
But that 18, 19, 20-year-old Michael Owen, man, I don't know many in world football that could deal with that Michael Owen.
What happened then? Was that the injuries?
Yeah, injuries. That's it. Hamstring.
Especially for a fast player, isn't it? You can't be having hamstring trouble.
Michael Owen, I don't care what anyone says, he don't get the props he deserves either. 18, 19, 20-year-old Michael Owen he was illegal. He shouldn't have been allowed on a pitch. He was too much. He had too much for anybody. He destroyed Gareth Southgate, Martin Keown, had all of them in training, Adams a lot. He put them to bed.
Did you see it? Did you used to see it that way as well, Emile?
Yeah, look, I'm because grown up around. It's our era, isn't it? So I've grown up around Michael, so you see where he's come from and where he's been, and like, I can't see anyone at that age who has done what he's done. I remember I was at Leicester and playing against Liverpool, and someone's pinged the ball over the back into the channel, and I've said something, but you know when you think you've said it in your head, but it's come out. I said, that's gone out, and I see Michael going. And I see Michael pick the ball, and he went, "There's no ball that goes out with Michael on the pitch." I'm
Crazy.
Like, he's so quick. But then obviously he started to have his injuries and stuff like that, and then that's obviously what curtailed a lot of his movement as well. But he was so rapid as well.
But you know what the difference is, yeah? Is normally when you get a quick player, they don't have the ability to slow-mo the picture, the game down when they get into the critical phase of scoring a goal. When they get to that last moment before you steady yourself and shoot and slot it past the goalkeeper, normally fast players are running as fast at the beginning as at the end of that part of process of scoring a goal. Whereas Michael had that ability to be able to run quicker than anyone and then get there, and then the picture went to HD, slow-mo, and then slot. There ain't many players who can do that. That's a difficult part and the element that people mainly get wrong.
Yeah.
Is that what we think Rashford's lacking with at the moment? Too intense?
I think Rashford sometimes needs to just. I think if I was coaching him, would be saying to sometimes you haven't got to hit it as hard as you're hitting it. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes if you take a little, Nani used to be like that. Nani used to be an amazing player. He'd get into great positions and then try and take the lever off the ball. When really you just need to slot it and calm down maybe and slot it. But I'm not a striker, so I can't say it with as much conviction as someone like Emile or Michael or Rooney would be able to tell someone like Rashford. But if I'm looking on and I was thinking with my coaching head on, I would be thinking just sometimes slow down and just take your time a little bit more in them situations. But listen, he's still got a decent goal record, Rashford. So, and he's young. It comes.
Yeah.
Guys, before I'm loving all this stuff, man. You guys don't understand. Like this is what we want to see here. But we do still have matters at hand. The FA Cup this weekend. In regards to the FA Cup, I call it the Forever Arsenal Cup because obviously that's our thing. You know what I mean? It's very close to tell. I know it's still early. We're only going to, the fourth round, etc. But what are we looking at, man? What do you reckon? Who do you reckon will be lifting that at the end of the year, Mil? Hard, I know.
I know it's hard. It's a tough one, isn't it? Again, the funny thing is whoever puts their strongest 11s out, because again, a lot of teams are looking at playing in their leagues, in their Premier League, etc. And the games are coming so thick and fast, and we're having to kick certain games down the road, and there's not many spaces to actually fill all these gaps anymore. So whoever plays their strongest, whoever can play their strongest 11, I've got inevitably a really, really good chance of getting as far as possible. Because when you're looking at this game, will they play their strongest 11, Man U and Liverpool?
Well, I'll ask you, who's going to play their strongest 11, United or Liverpool this weekend?
I would say, well, I don't. With Spurs coming after that, I doubt Liverpool will play their strongest. They'll be more worried about. We're talking about them going back to back. We're talking about them retaining that, but they need to start picking up points. They need to start winning games, and they've picked up a lot of injuries. Matip can't seem to stay fit. They're having to play two holding midfielders at centre back, which is great, is okay for one game, but it's not ideal for a sustainable amount of time, because they just don't. Me playing at centre back for one game is okay, but me doing what Rio does, which he understands time and time again, I just won't get it. I just won't understand it. And this is where Liverpool are at this moment in time, trying to keep everyone fit for what they class as their major games.
I think Liverpool have to buy a centre-back if they're to win the league.
Yeah.
Especially I think the added point to it, especially if Matip can't stay fit, which he can't at the moment. If he doesn't stay fit, you have to buy, which he can't. He hasn't showed any proof that he can at the moment. You've got to buy. Otherwise, I don't think they retain the title.
We didn't touch on this. We didn't really cover the Liverpool United game because we did it before Emile came on, but as a striker that would be coming up against two midfielders, what would you specifically be wanting to do? Because I think me and Rio were both a little bit disappointed not to see Cavani start for that sort of guile around the box. What would you specifically be thinking of if you was in the situation that United found himself in yesterday playing against midfielders at centre half?
Well, your movement's got to be key because, again, I'll be coming in to go long or going long to come in. I'll be then turning them, facing them up and trying to slide balls in behind them. Crossing is super important because when you've got a defender like Rio will be looking at me, looking at the ball, looking at me, looking at the ball. Whereas a centre-back or anyone else playing that position, they're just fixated on the ball. And then that's when you can start making your runs in behind and trying to nick balls in front of them or whatever. Defenders are very cute in being around you as well and being touch tight to you so they know where you are and the ball is at every given time. Midfielders playing at defence won't be even thinking about that sort of stuff. So you've got to really, and this is where you're talking about Cavani because he's so astute in and around the box. You'd have someone like that there.
I agree totally. Like Emile said, for one game they can get it, they can concentrate, and they can all of them things they can concentrate on the detail. But over the course of 4 or 5 games, lapses in concentration, it's inevitable.
Emile, I wanted to ask just before we start wrapping up, Firmino. How do you see him? Because, people sometimes make the excuses for him not scoring goals into how he contributes in different parts of this game. I'm not really buying it too much. When I see Diego Jota, I think that's the way you should be going down. And I think he's personally threatening his position overall. When you see Firmino play, what's your thoughts on it?
I like him again. But again, I think as long as the others are clicking, it looks good. But when they don't, they're really looking at you to really be starting to do something. And I don't think he's got that to take a game by the scruff of the neck and start creating and doing other things that way. Jota does have that. But then, again, it's horses for courses, isn't it? Jota might be for a certain game. Firmino might be for a different type of game. But with Firmino, I think the others have got to click as well. If they don't click, it just falls flat on its face.
Rio, you wouldn't mind marking Firmino?
The narrative around Firmino, a year or 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, everyone was saying that Firmino is the most important out of the three because he's the glue. He's the person the ball goes into, and the game then builds off of him. He's the foundation almost in their attacking sense of the word. So it's all changed just because he's not scored a few goals, but I still think he adds value and brings value to that team because he's that something different to the other two. The other two are very similar in the way that they play, pace, running behind. He comes and links it up and gives the defenders, centre-backs, a different proposition, a different question, which for me as a centre-back, I didn't like that question that he asks, which is the one that, do you want to come and play in the midfield areas with me, or are you going to let me get in midfield and create more numbers and turn and face you and then be able to play behind to the runners? That was a question I hated when I played. So he brings different questions that are not there for all to see for the naked eye sometimes. They're a bit more subtle, but they do have big effects, even if sometimes it isn't from him putting the ball in the back of the net.
What are you doing, Rio? Are you following him into midfield, or are you trying to pass him on?
Exactly.
It depends on the game. It depends on where you are on the pitch. It's him, like people like him, like Bergkamp, someone like Zola, them type of players that drift about and go into the midfield areas. And Messi done it in the Champions League final at Wembley. He was their fake number 9, but he was playing midfield and creating an overload in midfield of numbers against ours. So, and me and Nemanja Vidic are standing on the halfway line looking at each other thinking, I've not touched no one, but we've conceded 3 goals. So it's a chicken and egg. If I go in, I leave Vida 1v1. Or I leave him open to big spaces around him for runners to be running from wide areas or from deep. So do I go in and leave him like that, or do I stay and remain secure? But then we still got hurt. But that's against the elite, the best of the best. But it's difficult, man. For a young defender, I think it's one of the hardest things to master. And I don't think you ever truly master it. That and defending crosses.
Finally, I just wanted to ask, Emile, coming up against Rio. I'm talking, growing up Rio. Talk to me, man. What was that like? And you can tell me if you had him up when he was younger as well. It's fine.
No, I always say Rio's the best defender from our era. It's funny because everyone was calling for all these new type of defender, and then Rio came along the scene. I could defend, it could go. It didn't really need to because again, tactically and his spatial awareness kind of got him into positions where he didn't actually need to tackle or anything. And then he could play out drive with the ball. Rio played right back when we played England under 18s, didn't you? Flicking the ball over his head and driving down the wing, doing step overs. And then you see him in centre back, and he can do the same again. And he was a bit before his time because again, it's been calling out for it now that you've got a defender because everyone's having a go at John Stones, but we've been calling out for someone who can really play on the ball, a defender that can drive out and play on the ball. But then they're saying, oh, his defending isn't well. I think Rio was before his time where people couldn't really appreciate what he actually was giving to football at the time.
Amazing.
Cheers, Emile, man. I'm going to send the money in the mail. It might be because of COVID. It might take long, but it's going to get there.
Emile, before we get off, can you talk to us a little bit about what Player for Player FC is?
Yeah, so Player for Player was born out of. I'm on a UEFA course at this moment in time. It's UEFA MIP for Masters for International Players, and it's just getting players back into football on the other side of football, admin side of football, just getting them to understand it. A lot of players are trying to move into that side of football, whether it be coaching, whether it be upstairs in directorship or marketing, media, whatever it is. We're all moving into different aspects, and the UEFA course was for that, to help them with that. Still in Petrov, myself, Gaiska Mendieta, Michael Johnson and Gareth Farrelly, they've already actually finished it, and I'm still on the course now. We come together and just decided that we wanted to give something back to football and formed Player for Player, where we're actually helping current and ex-players with the different side of and planning for the different sides of football, whether it be while you're actually playing or after. You know, Rio, you're doing a hell of a lot now, but again, a lot of players are not guided and not helped in that way, and we're just trying to fill that void for them as well.
Good. Well, good luck with it, man. That sounds exciting. I'd love to see that stuff. It's good, man.
Thank you.
So, guys, thank you very much for watching our show. I know, Rio, you're going to do the official sign out, but I'm just saying we're still looking for a name, right, Rio, for the show?
Yeah, man. We're struggling to find a name. I need some help. Give it in the comments. Get in there. Get on all our social media platforms and have some input into creating a name for this, what we're doing at the moment.
Steve, anything else, bro?
Nah, I'm good. Just enjoying life at the top of the league, mate. You wouldn't know anything about that.
All right, guys. It's been brilliant, man. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Make sure you follow Player for Player FC on IG. I've just given it a follow now. I'm looking forward to it. You guys, I'll see you next week. Peace.